So, joining me on this episode of the Neil Wilkins podcast, I'm delighted to welcome Brandon Falcon. Now, Brandon is the chief exec and owner and founder of pretty much everything of Falconics, which is a marketing agency that specializes in helping B2B SaaS companies grow through something that might be a little different to the way that you view marketing: empathic resonance marketing. Now, this is a unique approach that we're going to go deep into because I like the sound of this. Marketing, I think, for many of us is all about the numbers, the data, the sales that comes out of the leads that we generate. But Brandon knows this to be something a lot deeper and a lot more true. Brandon, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So what is this stuff? What is it, and how can we get empathy into marketing? Sounds a big change for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe, stepping back just a moment, being in this space for over 10 years in the white label space for many years in marketing, moving into just running our own organization, we saw a lot of brands pushing towards that desire of, hey, let's automate, let's run systems and tools and automate as much of the process as possible. And it comes from a good place, trying to streamline support, trying to lower overhead operating costs to kind of make life easier. But what we noticed was the consistent factor of removing that human touch that really allows us to build trust, rapport, and a relationship with another person on the other side, understanding, hearing their pains, and being able to truly speak to it and solve for that problem. And that's how we came about our EMR approach, which we call it internally, is understanding that human element and then making supporting automations, tools, and processes around that, so we never remove that human element.
I'm loving this because I think for so many of us, and I'm sure most people listening to this will kind of understand, we're all falling into this kind of AI pot, or this AI trap almost, that there's all these lovely sort of carrots and gold being dangled in front of us. You can do this faster, you can be more efficient, you can almost take yourself out of the process, and you're going to free up all this amazing time to do strategic things and things of higher value. But it's kind of missing the point, isn't it? And I think what you're saying is that this is about keeping it real, because the more we do that stuff, on paper looks really, really good, but actually it does remove us. And after all, it is us in that relationship, isn't it, that has been the thing over, many decades, that has actually been where the value of marketing comes from. So, I mean, do you think many of us have almost been blinded by this new kind of shiny thing that's presented itself?
Yeah, that's exactly where I believe it's moving towards, and especially with the adoptions of more AI, more intelligence on a lot of these things, we're losing the ability to have that real connection that has historically worked. And I joke internally about this with my team and stuff, and I tell people, hey, this is like having a mechanic or your plumber or someone like that. Like, you call it almost your guy or your person that you just know, you trust. That's who you call when you have a problem in that arena. And that is what we've noticed is missing in the marketing world for the most part, is the push towards the automations, the systems, the tools to expedite things, but removes that end customer actually having a strong relationship, a bond with you that keeps them around long term. That's where we start to see an increasing rise in like churn and turnover in brands, because they're a lot of times just switching from the next best solution or the one that's the most affordable. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best. And we're trying to help brands recognize that, see that, and be able to solve for that, so they can keep that pool of users that genuinely care about their brand and the problems that they are solving for their end users.
So I'm kind of getting a sense, Brandon, that you're kind of swimming against the tide here. As you were describing that, I was thinking there was this one time I was in sort of Monterey with the family, and we went to the big aquarium there, the world famous aquarium. And you kind of walk into this place, and you have these shoals of fish, and they're swimming around in these tanks, and there are literally tens of thousands of these fish. And then occasionally you see one that's swimming against the rest of them. I think it was sardines or something. I mean, it's a bit of a bizarre story. But I just remembered that moment and thought, do you know, little guy, you're kind of swimming against this massive, great tide of energy, if you like. And you almost felt quite kind of proud of this little fish really swimming against it. Why and how did you kind of end up sort of, being in this space? Because for most of us, we've just got dragged along in this kind of Me Too kind of way. And you seem to be swimming directly against this kind of oncoming tide.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest difference we noticed was we had interacted with many brands that believed that they knew who their audience was, who their ICP was, who they were going after and interacting with, but just seemed to never be able to get it over the finish line and get them to onboard. And if they were onboarding and on utilizing the services, they seemed to not stay as long as they believed the customer would stay. And with that, we started to realize like, hey, yes, we are going against the crowd, and just adapting it from the bottom down, or a lot of times a sales team level up, was less effective. Very similar to what you're saying here with your analogy here. But we realized what introducing it to the head or the leadership and bringing it down from a CEO point of view or a director point of view, and allowing for change to happen from that level, and to kind of get proof of concept from the entire organization, like, oh wow, our CEO was able to do this, had made such the difference in helping them understand that, hey, this can be adopted all the way down the system or down the organization, but it mattered from the top down, because we were noticing it just kind of still resonated. Part of it would still be, oh, the leadership would want to keep it automated, etc. But starting backward from most believed was the rate that we should go, made the difference and actually allowed people to adapt and really start to build that connection, start to see the customer stay around longer, those types of things, all these micro signals that let us know that, hey, this is working.
Yeah, I love that kind of micro signals thing, because I mean that's the nuance of being human, isn't it? That's the
Absolutely.
bit that, yeah, the AI and all the machine learning and stuff can probably figure out given time, but it is the subtlety of being human that allows you to, that's just a perfect phrase. Everybody listening, I'm going to say it yet again: micro signals. That's what we're
Yep.
looking for here. So I mean, obviously, data still has a part to play then, even if we're not kind of completely rubbishing the whole idea of AI and data driven sort of decision making, because it feels like that's still got a significant part to play as kind of evidence within being human in this space. I mean, is that true to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest things we recommend, or what we show people once we start the one-on-one relationship buildings, we recommend they start with, is we use artificial intelligence to help read through or comb through historic data, examples, emails, SMSs, things like that. Analyze the writing styles, the tone of voices, the micro signals that you would otherwise not notice in a lot of your analytic tools, to understand, hey, it took this many touch points, it took this type of tone of voice and writing style, and it required phone calls and maybe one-on-one meetings and handshakes. We utilize artificial intelligence to help identify the consistent patterns that works for a brand, so then we can then install the actual emotional elements and the empathic elements that actually allow for that long-term connection. So we're using it hand in hand, but we lead by that human element.
This is curious, and I just, again, as you were describing it there, I just kind of almost sense that as part of the sort of sales or lead gen or pipeline, whatever people want to kind of call this thing. I think we all know kind of what we're talking about here, that flow of customer journey. Often I'm hearing people say a lot, actually, at the moment, the use of AI to replace elements in that journey. So replacing the human at certain points in the journey for efficiencies, etc. But I think by listening to the way you're describing it, Brandon, what you're saying is that actually it's about leaving the human in place, but actually using the AI as a little bit of a layer, maybe as a filter, or maybe as a confidence builder, or helping in the decision making in the journey, rather than actually taking human out and replacing it with AI. Did I kind of hear that right?
You nailed it. Yep, that's exactly it. That's what we've realized as well, is the human element cannot be replaced. It needs to be the foundation. It needs to be the actual, the last straw you pull on that builds that relationship. And we sprinkle in artificial intelligence and processes and systems and things like that along the way to expedite the parts that would otherwise take hours to process through. That's one of the things I look at the most frequently myself, is those micro signals or those communications that a lot of brands have early on with their customers, thinking that, hey, this is the best path forward, or getting straight to the point and going to a sales pitch works. In all reality, it was that one-on-one meeting they had that actually had someone build trust in the brand. And then they were more interested, more inclined to take action. And we would not have otherwise noticed that without spending 5, 10, 15 hours researching all this data manually, and communication in all reality probably was not being done. But now being able to use artificial intelligence to help review that for us and give it parameters of what to look for, it can expedite that down to minutes, giving us more insight, allowing us to go back to the humans and test it in almost real time. We're trying it out and testing things within a day from learning more information.
It's exciting, isn't it, really? Because it just feels the quality element goes up. You're not necessarily doing things super quickly, or you're not necessarily replacing stuff, but it feels like the quality as well as the quantity is going to be improving here by doing it this way. So does this apply then at all stages of that customer journey, from, creating that initial awareness right at the top of the funnel through, the kind of the building of confidence, and then obviously the conversion into an actual customer, and then in the retention phase where you start to kind of build the loyalty? Are we seeing this play out, this more sort of empathy driven marketing? Does it play out throughout the journey, or are there places within the journey where you think maybe it's not quite going to work there?
Yeah, we use it across the board. So from cold outreach or just alignment in general, interacting with them, to the actual onboarding and facilitation, and all the way on to the retention portions of it, helping them not only for our own internal benefit, obviously, but helping them install that insight to be able to regularly check in on their end users, and to verify that, hey, they are solving the problem they believe they're solving consistently. That is, again, an area that we believe gets overlooked and missed. And especially in the marketing world, as a marketing professional and being in this space for many years, I know this is relatable, is that we have a lot of metrics to be looking at and to consider. But when was the last time we utilized that insight to just make sure that people were seeing us, we were staying top of mind with those individuals, not necessarily looking for the signals like, oh, our bounce rate increased, or our conversions dropped. Well, what does that actually mean? What does that actually mean? What is causing these humans to take different action than before? Realizing that human element is still a core deciding factor that we need to be focused around. It just makes it a lot easier to look at the data and say, okay, what is that inhuman doing? How can I make their experience better? How can I get them to stick around? And how can I solve what they truly need so they don't desire to look elsewhere?
I know we've obviously, because naturally we're both marketers, so we would naturally go straight to the marketing element here. But does this kind of stuff play out in other kind of supporting disciplines? I'm thinking sales, I'm thinking customer support, customer service, maybe some of the tech side of a particular business. Would this kind of approach play out there too? Because I'm guessing it's an internal comms thing as much as it is external.
Yeah, I mean, it plays in a lot of different fields, to be honest. One of the reasons we niched down to one specific space in the SaaS space was because we realized a heavy focus on tech and automations and tools and what we love to call feature focused. Like, hey, we added a new feature, a new benefit to our tool, but does it tie back to solving that core problem? And to your original question on all the different areas, yes, absolutely. If we're installing this from the leadership down, we're noticing this utilized in sales. We're talking about a lot faster, a lot smoother conversation. Yes, you may need more iterations or more conversations along the way. That's what the data and the reviews we do help us to identify what is actually necessary. But once we realize what that is, we're really just helping them identify, hey, these are the boxes we believe, based on all the historic data we've done, this is what we've realized that we are the best at. This is what we solve. We believe that you align because of these reasons, and we can help solve it. And we actually provide tailored messaging for them, and tailored assets and validation case studies that solve for those specific things and show them clearly that, hey, this works for your organization as well. So in sales, another great one is content creation. So organic content, understanding clearly what you're solving for, understanding clearly what your end user needs to feel and believe in your brand, helps you speak so much clearer in your content, and honestly have to put out a lot less, because you're able to clearly pinpoint the pains that you solve for and it allows you to stand out in the market in a way that would otherwise not be done other than feature focused. Like we had this new feature, we added AI to it that we're seeing across the board and everyone's wanting to do, but truly, how does that solve their end problem? How does it make their life easier, give them more time back with their family, to go enjoy hobbies, etc.? That is what we're realizing is the difference.
So yeah, it's really, really interesting. I guess the deeper you kind of go into this and the more you think about it, the more you realize actually there's I guess, a strategic value. I shouldn't make making an assumption here. I'm going to ask you the question rather than that. So Brandon, is there a strategic value in terms of like partnerships then with, because no organization, no business works in isolation. Obviously, everybody has a value chain of sorts, and they might have strategic partnerships. I mean, how do companies who are kind of operating this approach, how do they kind of sort of unlock or leverage kind of strategic partnerships in this way? Because it feels like you could align yourself with organizations who are quite like-minded by going down this route.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, for one of our core offering, our core approach that we do is we actually search out the organizations that we believe has aligned values. And not only do we do it for ours, but we do this for our actual clients as well, helping them find their ideal partnerships, not only for referral relationships, but for actual their end users as well, because we believe all of this is truly just partnerships. It's at the end of the day, it's friendship. And when you base business around friendship and how to build a rapport with your partner and your friends, it makes life a lot easier. And at least in our opinion, we're not having to hit so many random numbers and running ads that go do this or that. And again, we've tried everything under the book with like we've done everything that a marketing company would typically do as well. And we still do those things, but we realize that that human touch, that human approach is the one that makes all the difference, that actually solves the core problems and allows us to install tools and services around that to actually to help them grow long term. So absolutely a must.
So yeah, so this is a long-term and short-term thing, isn't it? I guess once you start seeing the short-term sort of tactical wins, I guess you could call them, then it kind of feeds into the long-term planning, doesn't it? I mean, when we're having this conversation, this is obviously for a lot of organizations, this is planning period, this is planning season, and they're kind of figuring out what they're going to be doing, for the rest of the year. I guess this is a tactical and strategic thing. It's something you take seriously at a kind of sort of day-to-day operational level, but also then it feeds into the bigger picture. So would a brand be able to kind of differentiate in this way?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think because it is both strategic and a long-term play as well, being able to start to interact, first off, finding those ideal users, finding who actually fits for your organization. Again, I think most wait for people to show up to them, and looking for that inbound is like, hey, they're interested, now we'll have that conversation. But actually going out and I call it knocking on doors. We're going to go reach out to brands and say, hey, I see you're doing this and we believe you have this type of pain or this type of problem in your organization. We can help that. Let us show you. And we don't ask for anything back. And this is what we encourage our clients to do as well. We come in and truly try to provide value. It's a numbers game. We're not going to hit thousands and thousands. Usually the goal is handpick 100 or less a month that you're going to have this one-on-one conversation with. But those people hit all of our qualifications of they align, they have the problems that need to be solved, that the organizations we represent can solve, etc. And once we have that information, we start helping them build those conversations, start those dialogues, obviously win that business, and then help them stick around for a long term is the goal. At that point, it switches over to a different strategy, which is helping them keep and stay in that rapport for longer. So it's definitely a transitioning game that you have to balance along the way, but it is definitely something you want to do earlier on than later on. It just makes life so much easier, and you have a lot more consistent revenue too. That's one of the things we're noticing regularly with startups going into like a second round of funding and stuff like that. They're just looking for consistency to take back to their boards and stuff like that, and to generate more funding. And being able to show that, hey, we can consistently generate businesses that align with us. That's been a game changer.
I just want to go slightly off piste here because it's It sounds almost so good that any marketer, no matter what sector, what industry, would want to have a piece of the action here, because this just feels like the right way to do stuff. Do you see, or have you seen any examples where this maybe it works in maybe a B2C, so business to
Mm,
consumer context? Because obviously SaaS is one sector of an industry that
yeah.
is very much business to business. As you say, it's the smaller numbers. Would this approach, do you feel, or have you seen it kind of play out where you're looking at sort of one to many, so very much, a volume game? Could it apply there too?
Yeah, there's definitely elements that can be, and we've played around with it for a little while. I would say the biggest hurdle that we see in the B2C, and this is just something where it takes someone wanting to spend the time to dig in and find the path forward. But targeting and a lot of the benefits as a marketer is using our tracking pixels and analytics, is understanding this raw data. And it's a lot simpler in a lot of ways to help find it for businesses, because businesses are usually very open about what they solve internally. So you can pinpoint it. As a consumer, it makes it a little bit harder because you have to niche down to the individual level versus the organizational level. Absolutely can be done. Absolutely, we have clients that actually do it. A couple of them that's been with us for many years that we've installed it into and it's worked for it. We've just realized that it doesn't work from A to Z like we would typically do with our B2B customers. It would be in certain pieces. But at the end of the day, if it helps build that long-term retention and helps build that long-term relationship, is that not impactful? And the short answer is yes, it can still be impactful, just taking that human element first.
Yeah, sort of human element first, and I guess it almost comes with sort of identifying maybe sort of one or a small number of people actually within your business to almost be the figurehead or the kind of the face of the organization. Is it as simple as that? Is that how it sort of manifests? Within social media, for example, you consistently see the same individual kind of coming through. I mean, I don't want to use necessarily an obvious example, but you look at
Yep.
somebody like Elon Musk at X, is
Yep.
obviously he face of X, he is X, X is him, it's one and the same. But coming down to a more sort of practical level, is that how it would play out for a much smaller business too?
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, what we recommend for organizations that fit into different categories or want to utilize different faces in the organization is we segment them into the industries they best serve, and almost make a spokesperson for that sub channel. So if it is, let's say for instance, you're a software company across the board, you might work with enterprise, mid-market, even startup brands, varying the message. Yes, you might have the CEO speaking to all three, but for instance, the enterprise ones, their needs are completely different than the startups. They're solving like obviously a commercial problem, and volume and just consistently. They have a lot more defined problems, we've realized, and having someone that consistently speaks to that seems to be what makes all the difference. And I say seems to be because obviously it's not the same every single time. Every industry is a little different, but understanding what that sub genre, that niche really wants, going to the channels that they care about, and having someone that speaks specific to them consistently, that's what we've realized makes the difference. It's they have a trusted partner in that organization that solves that problem. I like to point it to very similar to like having an attorney. You might have an attorney's office that has 10 attorneys there, but they work on different things and they will move you around based on what problems need to be solved. That's the approach I like to help install into organizations, is who's best equipped to solve this problem for what niche or what niche audience, install that and start dialogue. That's where we get the data.
So it's all about kind of human to human. And I think you've used the word sort of being relatable, isn't it? Because then as a customer or client, you can very quickly see, okay, it might be a Me Too product, or, as you say, the features and benefits, which we shouldn't really be talking about because we're marketers, but they're kind of there in the product themselves, aren't they? And once you kind of say, okay, company X has got, these features and benefits, company Y has got these, and okay, where's the differentiation? This is the differentiation differentiation, isn't it? Are these humans, this is the empathy bit, are these humans relatable to me? And if they are, well, I'm going to go with company X because they're more like me. They understand me. They look and they sound like me, versus company Y, where it's like, yeah, I get them. They're cool, but actually they're not me. Is it down to that level of
It's
pure
literally down to that
practicality?
level. I tell people, think about it. What are some of the brands that most individuals fall in love with? And this usually falls under our luxury brands or our premium brands for the most part. But think about the experiences you've had across the board of any luxury or premium experience. I can almost guarantee the difference was an interaction you had with someone in that organization. It usually wasn't the organization as a whole. The organization as a whole installs or that's how we call it. We install the thought process, the methodology into the staff and the team to then go and utilize it on a one-to-one basis. We like to call it a one-to-one to many. So we teach in core people how to interact and have these types of conversations and build real relationships, and we help them then install it on a repeatable basis for whatever job they are doing in their organization. And again, another tying it back to a company, let's think of like a Rolls Royce, for instance. So it's okay, the epitome of quality built and man-made, or all the handmade and etc. You're wanting service done. You want service on your vehicle. You don't bring your vehicle to the service dealership. They bring a truck to come get it from you, and then they drop off another vehicle with you. They do all the service, all that's included. It's white glove. That is what we're trying to help install, a white glove service while utilizing automations and artificial intelligence to support the end user through volume. And growing. That's really the key difference that I think that we're helping make in the marketing world as a whole.
I'm curious, are you a fan, Brandon, of influencer marketing? Because it feels like, done the right way, this could fit.
Yeah,
Influencers, or let's call them micro influencers, obviously within
yeah,
SaaS, it's going to be very specific people for very specific product types. I mean, that's very clear. But are you a fan of that? Or is this
yeah,
something you want to keep kind of close to your industry or close to your business? Can you actually put stuff out to influencers?
yeah, absolutely. So part of a larger project, or what we work with individuals or organizations that are looking for something called our flagship. Basically, all that's looking for is we look at their entire business as an omni-channel view and figure out where and what elements need automations installed, what areas need more human interaction installed at certain points, so that it can be used obviously long term and grow the business long term. But yes, the influencer marketing, the niche influencer marketing, is one of them for rapport building or relationship building when we do larger marketing activities, for instance, running ads or going to an organizational event or a conference, for instance, utilizing individuals that already have our ideal audience or our customers' ideal audience, eyeballs and visibility, working with those to show that, hey, our client, our customers solve these types of problems. We want their audience to recognize this. So yes, we help them handpick those a lot of times to build those relationships.
And I guess it's that hand picking that's really key, because,
Yeah,
if you just kind of literally go down some roster of influencers who happen to have worked in the sector you're targeting, and you just think, oh, well, we'll just pick the first one because they're either the cheapest or they've got the most followers.
yep,
That's not the way this
that's
is going to
not the way.
work. This
Yep,
has to be, do they really resonate? Would they really truly reflect our brand? Because otherwise the empathy is going to go way
you nailed
off
it.
track, isn't it?
Yep, that makes all the difference. We're not looking for necessarily quantity. We're looking for being able to stack components that we know consistently work. So even if that is jumping on or working with an influencer that only has 1,000 people looking at their content versus another influencer's got 100,000, what's the engagement rate? Do people trust one more than another, or is it just more entertainment? And understanding the differentiation of what type of focus is being brought in makes the difference. Attention is not always what we want. We want attention for people who actually want what we are looking to provide. And that's what we have to actually coach on is making sure those align properly.
That's great stuff. And I'm really kind of getting a sense here of how, this approach really kind of almost dovetails in with every single element of, let's call it traditional marketing, but
Yeah.
all the facets of marketing. There's a place where this fits all the way through. So what other trends and things are you seeing? Because obviously SaaS marketing is one of the world's kind of like leading, I guess, areas within marketing. We often see stuff that happens in SaaS plays out elsewhere a little bit later. What are the other kinds of things that you're seeing?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the biggest ones that we've really focused in on is on the social channels, mainly because there's a lot of missed opportunity we'll take a step back. I think a lot of brands for many years have been told you have to create content, you have to pump out content every day, and there's these schedules and frequencies. But the whole time being missed was the thought process behind it was being missed of, well, what's the actual goal of this content going out? Is it just eyeballs on me, or is it genuine interest from my end users? And just pumping out for the mass amount of visibility does not necessarily solve that. So creating content that allows for dialogue, that allows for questions to be asked, and the brand taking that opportunity to actually respond and communicate with their end users or their potential end users, even critics. I mean, something so simple as hey, you're getting some negative feedback. Well, is there any merit in it? Do we need to address that in some way, shape, or form that helps others overcome that and see that, hey, this is not actually a problem? And I think most people do see through it. It's just they need to understand that you have a path that that doesn't get off track by negativity, basically. So basically, starting there and understanding that, hey, the organic social media content is designed to build dialogue and a relationship, and then complementing with things, let's say, for instance, social outreach. We are a big advocate of reaching out to other organizations that either we want to partner with, or we want to guide in some way, shape, or form, and help. We believe we can help make an impact for, and we love reaching out through LinkedIn. That's one of the people hear me talk about regularly is LinkedIn outreach, because it's so personal. Being able to connect with that end user that you want, that solves whatever they solve in that organization, but being able to communicate with them and talk to the pains that individual has and that they recognize makes all the difference. We don't need to get 10,000 people to see us. We need 1, 2, 5, 20 people that solve, or they need to solve what we solve. Need their problem solved by what we solve. That makes all the difference. It doesn't need volume. It doesn't need fancy, big, intricate plans. It just needs someone willing to reach out and have a conversation that makes the difference.
There's a real kind of honesty here, isn't there? This is almost coming back to real honest communication. It's more than marketing. It almost feels like the word marketing has kind of taken us a little bit off the scent here. And actually what we're doing here is we're talking about honest, authentic, true communication. I guess that's empathy, isn't it? But the whole idea of kind of coming back to building real relationships between humans. And yeah, there might be a transaction or a bit of a trade, but as long as we've given you value, as long as you've seen some value from us, then almost in sometimes that might be enough, mightn't it? It doesn't necessarily have to result initially or instantly in a sale. I mean, because that sale might come much later. Did you see this playing out in a longer term way for some brands where it isn't necessarily about just hitting this month's numbers? It's kind of, you almost have to play the patient game to actually make this win. Do you see that?
Absolutely. I mean, we see that in most of the world with brands that we seek out and we desire. I mean, we step back 10 years and we remember Apple. How many people stood in line overnight in the snowstorms like that for an iPhone? The prestige of having the iPhone made the difference, but it was a feeling a lot of times that I believe people like Steve Jobs was putting out to the world that resonated, like, wow, I really want this. It solves a problem that I truly need. And I think it leads back to the empathy element. We can say it's the cool tech and things like that, but let's be honest, there were other tools. Android was bidding at the heel at the time with equal or greater product at the time. Well, what made the difference? Well, a brand made a relationship with you. They made you feel like you were part of something better. You weren't just a new tool that you'd have to buy every year. Yes, that was part of it. Yes, they got you. I'm one of the guys that's bought the phone every single year, but it made you feel included and cared for, and that you could walk into a store and someone there was actually willing to help you. That's the difference that most small and mid-size startups lack, and the big ones have to, the enterprise ones have to decide, is this where we want to be? Do we want to go completely automated and understand that we're eventually going to saturate and cap our market, or do we want to be able to truly penetrate the market much further and solve a really big problem by having that one-on-one relationship? And that is the part that I have never been able to shake. And like you mentioned, it's going back to the empathy. Empathy can tie in a bunch of different elements of how we as humans communicate, connect, and feel cared for. And we're just trying to help install that again back into organizations, and build those long-term rapports where you can truly care about something, you care about a brand, and the brand cares about you. I think that's where we're lacking. And I think that's solving that problem is going to make a world of a difference for the ones who jump on board.
I'm feeling a lot of hope here, Brandon. This is kind of giving me a big kind of sort of feeling of hope that whilst I love the emerging tech and all the AI and these opportunities that are coming, it feels like there's this real, kind of sort of balance that I think we're striking here. If we can get this right as a marketing industry, agencies, client side, wherever you're sitting and however you're listening to this, wherever in the world, if you can just try and figure out the way that, a lot of what Brandon's sharing with us applies to you and your brand and your business, I think there's hope. I really do. I mean, if somebody wants to kind of continue the journey with you, you don't just talk on other people's podcasts, do you? You have some stuff going on yourself. Do you want to share a little bit about the work that you're doing?
Yeah, definitely. So basically everything we've just mentioned is part of what we do. We do it from the ground up, for anyone and everyone that comes in. We're going to help you identify, hey, can this be solved? If it can be solved, can it be solved through our systems and what we built out? If it is, then great. We'll put you through. We'll show you how we can help you solve that. If not, we're going to point you in a direction that helps you install this anyway into your organization, but it's going to require some tweaking. You're going to have to do some internal work. Well, the beauty of that is it's all yours at that point. You're able to take something and run with it. And that is my passion for this world. Like I said, I've been doing this for over 10 years, and worked in a lot of different spaces. And the emotional element is what I've realized over and over and over again that was the part missing. And if I can help others install that into their business, then man, it's hit home for me. That is what I feel as my purpose for this world, is to help others understand how to serve a larger audience to the best of your ability, so you can go home and feel like, hey, you're satisfied that you've done a great job today helping others. E-commerce is here for a reason. We all buy and sell things constantly for a reason, and it solves a problem. Well, let's just help it align and get the ones that actually want what you solve to show up.
It's a great message, and we'll put all the connection details and how you can connect with Brandon in the show notes at the bottom here of the description of this episode. Brandon, this has been just a great conversation. It's just so refreshing to hear somebody kind of speaking a lot of sense. I think we have, as I said right at the start of the show, just been, I guess, swept along by all the media hype of all this emerging tech, and this is actually, I think, quite a grounding exercise for so many of us. What would be your one tip be if we were to just sort of give people apart from obviously connecting with you and making contact and stuff, but that aside, what would the one top tip be that Brandon would share with the world right here for the next thing that somebody could do having listened to this?
Yeah, definitely. If you're not sure how to get started on this, I would say first take a look at who you've already interacted with. What is your top 5-10% of customer clientele that you've already interacted with? Usually, for instance, we're going to ask you to look at the top 10 to 25 customers you brought on that love your brand, that want to stick around, that believe in what you provide, and just reread everything that you've had in conversation with that user to understand, as best as to your ability, what made them go from start to finish. Why did they choose you? Why was there rapport built with them? What was the common factor? And I can guarantee if you look at a minimum of 10 of those conversations, you're going to see something that reinvigorates something in your head and says, oh, I need to go install this for the next person I have an interaction with. It's that simple. Once you have an idea that what that pattern is, you can just start having those newer conversations with your ideal prospects and start testing the waters to kind of see for yourself. If you don't know how to do that, that's again, like you mentioned, Neil, have them reach out. Find me on social media, reach out to me, send me a message. I will help you look at those, figure out how to have those conversations, and go test it 10, 20 times. You will be oddly surprised at how well it will work. Once we understand what's worked in the past, gives you proof and confidence, and then you go test it in just the numbers game, the quantity game of life. Odds are going to be in your favor, a certain number. And we can solve those together. You can solve those on your own, but I am confident that there is a path forward with this formula that you will find success.
Brandon Falcon, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks so much, Neil.